堂々と当選する地元の心を掴んでいる男でいたなというのも印象。
Another thing that left a great impression on me about Mr. Tanaka is that although he was pursued by the public prosecutors, although he was pursued by the police, in spite of all of this, he was able to still run for office and able to capture the hearts of his electorate and again win a direct seat. The fact that such a man existed, I think, is very, leaves a strong impression.
そしてもう一つ、大変元気なお嬢さんがいるというのも印象に強く。
And also, when I think of Tanaka, Mr. Tanaka, I think also of the fact that he had a very, very energetic, vivacious young daughter.
一番印象に残ったのは田中角栄です。
So if I look back over the years, the person that, the Prime Minister that has left the strongest impression on me is Mr. Tanaka.
まあ、もう一つ強く印象に残っている理由というのは、日本では国会中継というのが NHK を中心に大変、頻繁に行われるようになりました。
Another reason that he leaves such a great impression on me is that, as you may know, in Japan we have a great deal of diet proceedings that are broadcast live on NHK.
テレビで見ておりますと、彼は野党の答弁に原稿もなく、よどみなく、8桁、10桁クラスの数字を平気で上げられると。それが間違いなく。すごいな、この総理が。官僚が後ろから一生懸命入れ知恵するようなところがなかったというのもテレビから見える印象として大変鮮烈でした。
I remember watching him on television, and I remember being very, very impressed by the fact that when he was thrown questions by the opposition parties, he would be able to go up to the podium and speak without scripts, without notes, and without any kinds of hesitations. He would be able to respond very, very strongly and boldly. And he would also be able to list off figures, 8-digit figures, 10-digit figures, without making any kinds of mistakes. He didn't have to have bureaucrats behind him trying to supply him with information or notes.
Okay, any other questions from the working press? Yes, please.
Freelance member of the club. As you know in Japanese history, the modernization of Japan is generally given as 1868. Since that time, until the end of the Second World War, Japan was involved in military activities every 10, 15, 20 years. Wars with China, wars with Russia, wars again with China, the First World War, wars again with China, the Second World War, and so on. In 1945, all of that stops. What are the factors that we can identify? The U.S.-Japan Security Treaty, the Peace Constitution of Japan, LDP rule and stability. One question I have is, what is your view on that? Japan has had the greatest period of peace in its modern history since 1945. No wars, growing peace and prosperity. The second part of my question is, how would you relate North Korea to your program of stopping the spread of nuclear weapons? What would you do about that? They're sending would-be missiles over us in Japan. What if one of them almost fell on us? What would you do then? So I think that you need to consider all these factors in looking at what's going to happen from now. I think when you talk about the big wind that occurred in this election, 日本語で言うとおならだったんじゃないですか。はい。
1945年ですよね。1945年の8月の15日に日本は無条件降伏をしました。
Yes, everything started in 1945. On August 15th, 1945, Japan agreed to an unconditional surrender.
ですから日本人として8月の15日、8月の6日、8月の9日、忘れてはならない、風化させてはならない、やっぱり日にちですね。
I believe in that sense, August 15th is a day we should never forget as a Japanese. We should also not forget August 6th and August 9th.
この3つは皆さんよく言います。8月15日、8月6日、8月9日忘れる。ところがもう一つ、もし記憶に間違いなければ、6月の23日、沖縄の地上戦が終結をした日。僕の記憶に間違いなければ、6月23日だと思うんですが、この4つの日を忘れちゃいけないと言います。この4、
Many people talk about these 3 dates as dates we should never forget, August 6th, August 9th, and August 15th. I believe there's also another very important date that we should not forget, and I hope my memory serves me correctly. I believe it is June 23rd. This is the day when ground fighting in Okinawa came to an end. These 4 dates we should never forget.
この4つの日にちというのは、日本が壊滅をした日。
These 4 days basically led to the destruction of Japan.
建物、人も、緑も、すべてが失われた日なんです。
This is the day when Japan was almost totally annihilated. It was the day when we lost people, we lost buildings, we lost the greenery, living things in Japan.
そういう中から生き延びなきゃいけない。子供のために、孫のために食べなきゃいけない。どうやって生きていったらいいか。
It was against this background that people struggled to somehow survive. They had to think every day, how are we going to feed our children? How are we going to feed our grandchildren? Where are we going to find food to eat? How are we going to be able to survive into the future?
平和を守ることしか、いや、平和を守ることが生き延びる唯一の道だと失敗をすることによって日本人は得得したんです。
And I think the conclusion that many people came to was that the only way we as a people can survive is to ensure that we maintain peace. We do not ever lose a sight of this peace. In other words, it is through our tremendous failure that we learned the importance of peace.
戦後64年、いまだに放射能の影響で苦しんでいる人が何万人といます。
Even today, 64 years after the end of World War II, we still have people suffering from the effects of radiation. We have people numbering into the tens of thousands.
私たち日本人は平和を求める、平和を守ることが日本人が生き延びる唯一の道だということを得得したんです。
In other words, through our bitter experiences, we have learned that the only way that we as a Japanese people can continue to survive is to ensure that we always seek peace and we always defend peace.
ですから争いを起こさなかったのでしょうね。
And I think it is for these reasons that we have avoided conflicts for so many years.
北朝鮮がもしテポドンだかノドンだか分かりませんけれども発射をする、日本の上空を飛ぶ、もしかしたら間違って落ちてくるかもしれない、心配です。
Certainly, in regard to your question about North Korea, certainly that is a country that causes us great concern if they shoot a ballistic missile, whether it is the Nodong or Tepodong. We understand that some of them may possibly enter Japanese airspace, and it's also possible that there could be some kind of technical error and these missiles could fall onto Japan.
ですからもし飛んできた